All right, I think we'll have a few more people, but we'll go ahead and get started so that they can join us as we go. Hopefully you all had a nice weekend. Remember to set your clocks back for that extra hour. I feel like they should do that clock setting back thing during the day. Like they do it in the middle of the night and you hardly even notice it. There's some days where I really could use an extra hour. You should be able to apply that hour whenever you want, whenever you need it the most. None that'll be too confusing for everybody. If you go to the classwork tab in our Google Classroom, you will see that I have put up our instructions for this week, so I kind of want to go through that. Just a reminder that this is a B week, so we do not have class on Friday. It's a B Friday. Also, we're starting our hybrid transition this week. There is a new schedule. Probably you've already realized it because third period, there were 2 lunches today. I did put a copy of the new schedule up here onto today's instruction sheet. And basically the difference is not much at all if you have a teacher, a third period teacher with first lunch. If you have a third period teacher with second lunch, then it's going to be a little bit different because they're having to have 2 lunches for the students that are here on campus. There's only 1 person per table in the cafeteria right now. So obviously they cannot put a lot of people in there like we're used to having everybody crammed in there. So they've got 2 different periods and for lunch, and so each teacher has been designated either first or second lunch. So you could have, just like if we were on campus, you could have a teacher with first lunch on A days and second lunch on B days. You just have to get that information from your third period teacher. We all already know which lunches we have, so you could check with that. And then, so that will throw you off a little bit from the schedule we've been having if you have the second lunch period. But we're still ending at 2:45 for the next 2 weeks. Note that this schedule goes until November 13th. After that, on the 16th, there's going to be a new schedule. And it's going to be more, from what I've been told, it's going to be more like what our class periods were like before we went on virtual learning. So there'll be longer blocks and they're going to go until, like the day will go until 4 o'clock instead of that. And right now we have this afternoon sort of teacher help time, and that's not going to be there anymore after the 16th. Also on the 16th is when anybody who has selected hybrid can come to campus. Right now it's just students who have been failing some core classes and students with connectivity problems. They're adding, I think, the sophomores and the juniors next week in those categories. And then on the 16th will be anybody who's elected hybrid can come to school. I will tell you that another thing that changed on the schedule is for this week and next week is that they are having synchronous Monday through Thursday. So I'm not going to do that. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to be a rebel. But if you look underneath each schedule, they've sort of broken it up into 45-minute sections. So the first 45 minutes of each day, each class period, Monday through Thursday, is synchronous, and then there's 45 minutes of asynchronous. They changed the structure of each period. And so technically you're supposed to be going to all of your classes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for 45 minutes at the beginning of each period. So your teachers may be changing that up on you. I am not going to do that. I feel like we're doing okay with getting our information on Mondays and having the week to work on things. Y'all can make, let me know if that's not working, but most people are passing with, decent to good grades. If you think that it would be good for us to have another class period on Thursday, we can do that. And I can just hold back half of the assignments, or I don't know what. It just seemed to me like we were doing fine the way we were. I don't want to fix something if it's not broken. But if you feel like in some way you'd be cheated out of your education by not having synchronous classes on Wednesdays, y'all can let me know and we'll do something. Maybe that'd be a good time for people who are working on assignments and they have questions to kind of like, communicate with me or something. Any thoughts on that? Anybody want to chime in on the chat or unmute and tell me something about that? It's okay then. I don't know. I feel like that's a lot of time that you're committing to being on a computer in a week. I mean, you're gonna be on the computer anyway, but at least if you're on the computer, you're sort of like navigating your own time frames and your own workload and all of that. So if you or your parents feel like it's necessary to have a synchronous class on Wednesdays, you can just let me know and we'll work something out. Okay, that's that.
Miss, hold on. Do you know if we can select which classes we come back to? Like, let's say we only want to come back to like a certain class that we like feel we need and not the other ones. Do you think that we could choose?
Yeah, they haven't said anything about that. And I think that they're expecting that if you come to campus, you're kind of coming for the day. But the way that they have it set up is that if you're coming to campus for hybrid, if your last name is A through M, you come on Monday and Tuesday only. If your name is N through Z, then you come on Wednesday, Thursday only. They haven't told you that yet because they're going to tell you like the day before you're eligible to come back to campus. But yeah, that's the way they're working it. So even people who are coming to campus are only coming 2 days a week. So if I do have students who come on Wednesday and Thursday, I'm just going to help them with their assignments, right? Like we'll just look at whatever it is that we have for this week. What do you want to talk about? How can I help you get started? Or, you know, we look at what you have. I don't want to make a new assignment on Wednesday when I already made all the assignments on Monday. Or do you think it works better if you get your assignments, half of them on one day and then half of them?
No, I think it's good the way we have it. Get them on Monday,
Okay.
and then if we have questions, we
Right.
just email you.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to keep it like that. But yeah, I don't want to say that, yeah, you can just come to class if you're hybrid when you need to. But I'm also going to say kind of off the record that I don't think they're going to argue with you if you're limiting the time that you're exposed to people. I mean, like you can always use the COVID as the reason why you only want to come to campus for this period or this period because I want to limit my exposure. But I don't know. I don't know if they're going to say anything or not. It's too early to tell. I would try it and see what
Okay.
happens. It's one of those things where it's better to just do it and then ask for forgiveness later than to ask for permission and be denied, I think. So yeah, I know that there are some students that are doing that, but they're primarily, you know, like administrators' children and things like that. So yeah, I say, you know, do what you think is best for you and your family. And if it doesn't fit in with what they have in mind, I'm sure that will tell you. Hopefully that was a decent enough answer, but I'm not in charge either. So I'm not the one who's going to be hunting you down in the hallways if you're here when you're not supposed to be here. But if you're a T, then you're going to be assigned to come on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So yeah, that's why they're going to that synchronous Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Thursday, so that if you come to school, there's a lesson. You're not just sitting there. But I feel like we'll just work on whatever we have going on that week. We have assignments, so yeah. Any other questions on the hybrid? The schedule's right here if you need it. No. All right, another thing, this is the last week of the second 6 weeks. So next week we move on to the third 6 weeks. Third 6 weeks is broken up because we have that week for Thanksgiving. I do not intend to give you assignments over Thanksgiving break. I am going to ask you to read a novel over Christmas break. And I'm going to give you a choice of like 6 or 7 different ones to choose from. And I'll give them to you like the first week of December so that you can either come and pick them up here at school if we have copies, or get your own copy, or find a PDF or whatever. So there are longer ones and there are shorter ones. I tried to pick a variety so that there's something for everyone. And then there won't be an assignment with that book, except that when we get back in January, you and I will have a discussion. So we'll set up a Zoom time and you and I will conference about your book. But more about that later. But yeah, we're not going to have an assignment over Thanksgiving or spring break, so that I'm going to give you an assignment over Christmas only, if that makes sense. Kind of compromise. Did you have a question today? You're going like this.
Oh, I was gonna ask if we could like, what if we already have a book we're reading, but never mind, because that way we can have a conversation. We will have to read the same book. Never mind. It's okay.
Right, right. You and I are going to talk about the book. Like the way it works is that whichever book you choose, like one of the days in December, or I'll make a video or something where I introduce all the 6 or 7 different books that you can choose from. I'll tell you a little bit about them, how long it is. I'll read a little bit or whatever, so you can get a feel for it. And then you and I will have a discussion about that book. So yeah, you bring a study question, like a discussion question. I bring a discussion question, and then we share. So, but that's just a preview. We're going to be doing that later on. We'll get there. Oh, there's some things in the chat. Let's see what the chat says. I don't keep it up there all the time. It's too many things in my way. We're doing good. I think we're doing good. Okay. I think so too. I think we have a decent passing rate. Almost everybody's doing well. So, all right, moving on. Last week of the 6 weeks. Make sure that you're touching base with your teachers this week if there's something that you're missing and they're going to take it late. This weekend is too late, guys. I know that last 6 weeks I got stuff like after I had already posted the 6-week grades. I don't post my grades like I'm not working on them this weekend. I'm gonna be done with them on Friday. I'm not one of those last minute people. So I had people who were emailing me, you know, like Sunday and even Monday saying, oh, can I still turn this in? And it's sort of like, I don't know, the grade's already done. You know, it's sort of like the sculpture's already been created. I can't take anything off of it. So do touch base with your teachers if you need to. I had a parent that emailed me and said, but I understand that your grades aren't due until Monday. Well, yeah, it takes time to look at stuff, right? So just be proactive and try to be considerate and make sure that your teachers have time to look at anything that you might be turning in. Also remember that grades can be amended. You know, like if you go and talk to your teacher and you know that you were later than you should have been talking to them, then just say, I know I should have taken care of this sooner, but I know that grades are already in, but is there any way that I can, you know, do this or that to improve my grade? I mean, you know, they'll probably work with you. So, but yeah, I don't, it's upsetting to me when people email me after the grade's already been posted. When the grade's posted, it's done. All right, I have a homework check for you. You should have done some notes on chapter 1 of the Metamorphosis. What did you think of chapter 1?
It was a lot too, you know. It was a good start. I really liked the way it started because
Yeah.
usually some books take a while for you to get into it, but at the first chapter I was like, okay, all right, this is gonna be good, worthwhile.
The first sentence starts it off for you, right?
I had to
Like
read it
right
like
away.
twice to fully understand what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an older work and also it's been translated, but that's why I wanted you to do the vocabulary because I knew that would help a little bit with that. So that was one of the main reasons that we did that. Yeah. It's a little bit of a long section too. Each section is about 10 pages long, which really for an advanced class isn't a lot, but I don't know if you're used to that or not. But yeah, you should have done some notes. So I want to go to this assignment real quick, and I want you to submit your notes. So if you go to this one that says assignment 1 in class, I want you to go to where you have your notes. I asked you to take notes on the exposition elements of the story that you saw in chapter 1. And I even made a diagram of one way that you could have done that, but I want you to take a picture of that real quick. However you did that in your notes, or if you did it with sticky notes in your book or whatever way you did it, I want for you to take a picture of that and submit it on this assignment during class today. Every once in a while, I will do a check on your homework to make sure that you did your homework. All assignments are important, but I think what starts to happen is students start to think if I don't look at it or if I don't collect it, then it wasn't important, and then they stop doing it. I'm not going to ever give you an assignment that's not important for you to do. Do I look at everything? No, but everything I give you builds on the next thing, right? So here's what I want you to do. You can go to this assignment right now, just snap a picture. See, there's already one turned in. Snap a picture of your notebook page or wherever you did that preliminary notes on the exposition. Those of you that are here in class with me that submit during class, then I'm going to look at your notes and I'm going to give you a homework check grade 90 to 100. Now, if you don't have that ready, if you didn't do your homework, it's not, all is not lost. You can still turn it in, but it's going to be a C or a B. So because you don't have it ready right now. So if I get your quality response from your notebook later today submitted on here, then that's okay. You can still get, up to an 89. If I get it tomorrow, like there's people who aren't in this thing today, the Zoom meeting, they'll probably watch it later today. Maybe they'll turn it in tonight, but there should be some, every once in a while, some reason why we do our homework that counts in our grades. So I'm going to close this by tomorrow night because it's a homework thing, but it's going to be hard for you to do the next assignment without having this assignment already done. So I want you to submit your picture right now while we're going through the instructions and stuff for this week. Just snap a picture and upload it right here to the assignment. Do y'all know how to, do that, right? Yes. Okay. I feel like if I know how to do it, probably you guys will know how to do it. Give me a minute to do that before we move on. You're supposed to look at characters. There's not very many characters in this piece, so that wasn't too hard, although they're very different. Then you're supposed to look at the setting and analyze the setting a little bit, and conflict. Those are the three things that I asked you to make notes on for chapter 1 of the Metamorphosis, because in chapter 2, the assignment that you'll get this week, we're going to build off of those. Because what should happen next? The rising action and the climax, right? Rising action should intensify the conflicts. Well, you already identified the conflicts. How are they intensifying? I should be able to ask you that this week coming up as you're reading chapter 2. Okay, so while those are coming in, I'm going to go back to the instructions over here. I wanted today to go over progress check 2. That had been my original plan, but remember we had to postpone the due date on that because they were doing some sort of technical adjustments on the site, and so those came in on Wednesday, and I did not have time since Wednesday to look at them. So I'm going to look at them this week, and I will talk about progress check 2 next week. I would have loved to have done it today, but it just didn't work out. I had other stuff coming in my other classes, so but I'll work on them this week and return them as I finish them with the comments, and then we'll talk about them officially all together next week. But you can check back on AP Classroom if it's open and working. You can go in there and check and see for comments. I'll probably finish those up this week so that we can talk about them next Monday. So I put it on here, but mainly I just put it there to remind myself because I had it in there originally and then I put the postponement. All right, the last thing for today is to do an interpretive question over your reading. So we're turning 2 things in during class today. I know that's different, but you have to change it up all the time, right? And keep things interesting. The first thing you're turning in is your picture of your homework. And then the second thing I want you to do is write what's called an interpretive question. And we're going to do this right here in Google Classroom. If you go to assignment number 2, the second in-class assignment for today, I made a, let me see. There we go. Oh, that's not it. Where is the note? I meant to link something to it. Hold on. Did I put it up here? Hold on. Oh, okay, here it is. I put it in the wrong place. I'll fix it later. But click right here. This is on the instructions part. I want to teach you how to write an interpretive question. And then the in-class assignment before you leave today is to go in and write your interpretive question from chapter 1 and answer 2 questions of 2 classmates. So it's about chapter 1 of the Metamorphosis, which you should have read for today. Click right here where it says interpretive question, or I'm going to bring it up here on the screen. So an interpretive question is a question that I want for you to pose. I'm not a big fan of writing a bunch of questions and you just answering them. I think at some point when we get to advanced literature, you should be asking the questions, right? And then seeking answers to those questions instead of just focusing on what I think is important. I think that you should be the one asking questions, and that's about life too, right? Instead of answering questions all your life, part of being an adult is asking the questions in the first place. So I want to kind of work you more toward that. So an interpretive question is one that helps us to think more deeply about a piece of literature. You've probably answered tons of them that teachers or textbooks have created, but now I want you to create the question, right? So an interpretive question is one that we might not know the answer to. That's kind of important right here. But trying to answer the question will help us understand the piece more completely. So you can think about something in the story that was kind of like, confusing, or a line that didn't make sense, that you truly want to know what's going on there and hear different opinions about that. Or you can just come up with a question that sort of leads us to an understanding about the text. So I put some little do's and don'ts and then some ideas on here for you. So the first one says an interpretive question should have multiple possible answers. In other words, we don't want to say, what is Gregor's mother's name? Because that is not open to interpretation. That is, her name is Anna and that's it. So that's not what we would call an interpretive question. So it should have multiple possible answers. I don't want to throw too many out about the metamorphosis, because then you'll have to start checking them off, crossing them off your list of ones that you can do. But I can pick another, like, what's one of the stories that we read that I can use as an example? Yellow Wallpaper, right? We read Yellow Wallpaper. Did we? No. What was the short story that we read? Trying to think back. In my mind, I'm thinking of all the stories that we read in Duel.
The story about the one with the dentist and the mayor?
Oh, right. The Gabriela Garcia Marquez. Yeah, that's a good one. So I might ask a question like, what made the dentist so angry? Right? And then I've got a couple different ways that I could respond to that if I was thinking about the story. So we want to make sure that the question helps us get at the meaning. So it should be based on characterization or setting or something dealing with the terminology. And it should focus just on the piece of literature alone. So it's just about that piece, not about, something else that's connected to it. Interpretive questions should not be answered by just pointing at it in the text, as I said before, a yes or no answer, or have just one right answer. So what you're doing is you're opening up like a discussion. It's a discussion question, a question that can be interpreted multiple ways. We don't want to open it up for, what does this say about the author's divorce from her husband, or anything like that. We want to just leave it within the confines of the story. So here are some examples and ideas, right? So your question can probe the significance of some mysterious quote. Maybe there's something that a character says that is kind of makes you contemplate what's going on in the story. You could use that as the basis for your question, or something that was confusing to you and say, what do you think Gregor means when he says whatever you want to quote? You could also question the motivations of a character, right? Think about the different characters and what makes them act the way they do. Why did Gregor's father, whatever? Investigate a relationship. How would you characterize the relationship between this character and that character? Because people will have different viewpoints on that, right? Think about how two elements of fiction relate to one another. In other words, how does the conflict affect the relationship between these two? Think of your literary terms, you can use those. Maybe there's a metaphor in the story that you think is significant, that you want somebody to kind of, spend some time explaining. Right? Or why did the author include, this description or this element or this, I'm thinking about the pictures that are in Gregor's room, right? He's got these frames that he keeps his pictures in, and so like that's sort of mysterious why that's even mentioned, right? So that could be an element for a question. So there's a guide sheet here. I put it in the wrong place. I'm gonna go back and fix it while y'all are working. But It's right here on the instructions. I meant to put it down here on the assignment. But what I want you to do is go to that assignment and you will see a spot for you to put in your answer. Your answer is going to be a question. Oh, that's confusing. So I want you to post an interpretive question. We're going to do this in real time here in class. So I'm going to give you about 15 minutes, and I want you to go back into your copy of the story and come up with an interpretive question. Use that guide sheet to help you. And post your question right here in the comments, and you'll start to see it populate with all the students' questions. Once you post your question, I want you to go and look at other people's questions and answer 2 of them, whichever ones seem interesting to you to answer. All right? So before we go today, we're turning in a picture of our notes, and we're doing an interpretive question with 2 answers. Your answers should be, you know, like a few sentences to your classmates. Questions?
Could you give like a brief overview of what kind of questions we could ask again? That way I know what
Yeah,
not to ask.
that's okay. It should be a question that is going to generate discussion. So it should be a question that's kind of open-ended, but does have some correct answers. They're the kinds of questions that teachers are always asking you about literature, but it's just that the teachers are formulating the questions. So I'm trying to flip it over on you a little bit. So you can go back to that study sheet. Where was it? This one right here that I made. I'll put it on that assignment in just a second. There's some at the bottom down here that you can use to develop your own questions. Ideas for writing interpretive questions. Okay. We're just practicing. Yeah. Other questions? Okay, I'm going to give you about 15 minutes then to work on that, maybe 20. I'll see how it goes. And then at the end of class, I'll go ahead and give you the overview of the assignments for this week, and then we'll be done. All right, I'm going to mute myself. If you have questions, just send me a note in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask me if you prefer. Looks like some very good questions there. Take about 5 more minutes. Remember that you should post a question and then answer 2 of your classmates' questions. I love that question about the dad. I mean, he didn't have to swat him with a newspaper. Come on, that was a bit much.
He had a cane as well.
Yeah. Pushed him through his doorway like, a couple hours ago, I was your son. I don't know, now we have to all contemplate how our parents would react if we turned into a vermin overnight. I don't know. Older brothers and sisters would just tease you probably.
Post it on Instagram.
Right? Selfie, bug selfie. Hanging from the ceiling. Did anybody else have that sensation when you were reading chapter 1 that it was kind of like you weren't sure if he was really a bug or if he just felt like he was a bug? You know what I mean? At first.
A little
Because
bit.
some days I wake up and I feel like a bug. What were you going to say, her name?
Nothing.
Because it seems so impossible at first, right? Like you're like, okay, that doesn't happen. So then it's this mystery throughout chapter 1. They never really explain it. I want to answer all these questions myself, but I'm going to hold back. Because then people tend to think that's the right answer just because it's what the teacher said. I like this question that Isaac wrote, right? What might the metamorphosis or transformation symbolize? Because metamorphosis is a process, right? It's not like the, butterfly emerges the same day that it goes into its chrysalis. So then the question is, we might not get an answer to this, but the question is he still going through a process, or is his transformation the end of the process, which begs the question, what was the process? Is that too philosophical? Like a metamorphosis has stages, right? We study this in, I don't know, like 6th grade science or whatever. And it's a time frame for each phase as the, what is it, like a larva turns into the butterfly or the moth or whatever. So if it really is a metamorphosis, is this his big reveal at the end of the metamorphosis? Or is he still metamorphosizing?
It would make sense that he's really starting because, first chapter, he's really a larva, and then maybe in the next chapter he cocoons, and then in the final chapter he kind of like
Yeah.
emerges.
Well, turns into what? I mean, back
We'll
into
find out.
Gregor. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's interesting. Because if it's about a process, then you could also say the process just finished in sentence 1. But I don't know. Then what do you have for a story? That's an interesting question. They're all interesting questions. You should be wrapping up your responses there. You can go back to this if you only got to answer 1. You can go back to it later and go ahead and put in your answer. But in 25 minutes, if you couldn't pose a question, then I'm wondering if you read your homework. So you need to read your homework. We're gonna have chapter 2 for this week. And guess what? The week after that, surprise, chapter 3. There are only 3 chapters. I picked this because it was short. That should take us to Thanksgiving, and then when we get back from Thanksgiving, we can do a little bit of wrap up and then review for the semester exam. All right, so if you still need to post to that, then I'm just gonna leave it open for the rest of the day today, also for the people who aren't here today. You can go back and work on that. I wanna go over this week's assignments, and then I will be done for the week. Even though the schedule says that we have time on Wednesday, we will not be meeting on Wednesday. I think that the general consensus was that don't fix something that isn't broken kind of situation. I feel like it's going pretty well. So this week you have formatives on Monday and Wednesday because it's a B week. So do check in for those. 1 and 2 we already did. So those are kind of like already off the list, but I put them on there just in case you still need to post your picture or if you still need to do the interpretive question. I tend to make assignments for everything, which looks like a lot, but I do feel like a lot of people like to go and check it off to make sure that they've done all their assignments. Like if you look at all the things that you have to do, if you already did it, you can check it. So sometimes it's something that you don't even really need to turn in. It's just something that you need to do. All right, there's a vocab list for chapter 2 of the Metamorphosis that I would like for you to practice before you read chapter 2. Chapter 2 is just as long as chapter 1. Each section is about 10 pages, but chapter 2 goes a little bit faster, I think, because we're already into the characters and what's going on with them. But go to the vocabulary.com. That is a practice site. I am not going to be going to that website to give you a grade on your vocabulary practice. The grade comes in the quiz for that week because the quiz will have vocabulary words and also some questions about the chapter. So this week's quiz has the chapter 2 vocabulary. We're like ahead on the vocabulary because I want you to do the vocabulary before you read the chapter. Does it make sense to me to do it afterwards? And then it will be over chapter 1, which you should have read that by now. So this week, quiz number 2 is on chapter 2 vocab and chapter 1 events. That's on formative also, just like last week. People did pretty well on that quiz. I think the average was like an 81 or something like that. So that was pretty good. As long as you go and do your vocab and learn your words. I did put down here on the practice vocab, I did put a list. I don't know if that helps you or not, but I made a list of the words that are on that chapter 2 list. Some people like to print that out or use that Google Doc to put in their own definitions. And then here's the link to the vocabulary.com. And the assignment should be ready to go starting today. So study up on those words in vocabulary.com. That is number 3. And then when you're ready, you can take the quiz. If you have not read chapter 1, or you feel like it wasn't very thorough, if you had trouble doing today's assignments, then I think that you should reread it before you do the quiz. I don't think it's a hard quiz, but obviously you need to have read the chapter to do well in it. So make sure that you go back and look that over before you do the quiz. And then I want you to read chapter 2 of the Metamorphosis for next Monday. That's it. So you're probably thinking, oh, that's all. But you have all week. So, and we're not going to have a class meeting on Wednesday. This time I want you to add to your notes by thinking about rising action elements. The main thing we focus on with rising action is how the conflicts are intensifying. How are the conflicts getting deeper? And there are a lot of conflicts here in this story. I mean, there's the one that Gregor has with himself because now he's got to deal with being a giant bug. I mean, that's pretty tough. But then he's also got some relationship issues with his parents and his sister. Because of that, he's got some job conflicts. So think about all the different conflicts that he has, and I want you to take notes. You can do it right, on the next page that you have in your notebook from today's homework. And look at those conflicts that you have from chapter 1 that you should have already listed and start thinking about how are those conflicts intensifying? How are they getting more complex? What's happening in that realm? And there's an assignment here for that too, right under read right here. And I put the PDF here again for you. It's the same PDF. It's just one big PDF of the 3 sections. So you have to go to page 205 on that PDF for it, or you can use the book. All right. questions? Anything on this list that you want me to go over? Okay. All right, then spend a few extra minutes if you need to finishing up your interpretive questions or answers or posting on the homework check. Only 6 people turned in their pictures. So make sure that you can submit to me evidence that you did your notes for chapter 1. And I will see you on Monday. All right.
All right, bye, miss. Have a good day.
Bye, you too.
Mhm.
Have a good week.